Hi, Ann.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Hi.
Ready to go. Hi.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Good to see you in my own house.
In your home. Thank you for inviting me to this wonderful setting.
So glad this worked out.
This is great.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Book club friends. Thank you so much for doing this, for being here, Kathy. Thank you.
We are going to be talking about the Dutch house tonight. And look at this beautiful setting. This is part of the Parnassus Book Club. This was our monthly book club choice for the month of April. And
you weren't pressured, were you? Did I pressure you ever?
No, there was no pressure at all, except that I was the only one in Nashville, Tennessee that had not read this book until a month ago. And people kept asking me over and over again, well, you've read this, haven't you? Because they all had friends, colleagues, everyone. And I said, no, Ann knows I'm waiting to read this book until I do it for the book club. So I have fresh eyes on it. And so I'm glad
it's very disciplined of you. That's
yes,
really
I had to hold myself back. I did. Anyway, we hope that this hour that we're going to spend with you will be a great resource for book clubs because we're going to be talking about different aspects of the Dutch house. And hopefully this will be some information that you can use in your own book clubs and questions that some of you who are in my book club I know have.
And I have to say it's exciting for me because now when people say, will you do my Zoom book club? I can just say, tune in.
Mm-hmm.
It's saved.
It's already done.
Yeah.
It's already done. And I hope they will.
Yeah,
I really hope they will. I did want to mention as a little background for Ann and me, I've known you for, I figure, about 25 years. And since the Davis Kid bookseller days. And
maybe longer. I mean, Patron Saint of Liars came out in 1992.
Okay, then we've probably known each other for about 27 years.
Yeah.
And Ann was always so gracious to come and do book clubs for me at Davis Kid and of course at Parnassus for her various books. They've been very memorable evenings and I've just really appreciated it and her friendship.
And I have really appreciated you picking my books for your book clubs. I mean, before you actually sort of had to, back when it was in the Davis Kid days. But it's so funny, my memory of you at Davis Kid, especially as Davis Kid kind of went downhill, it was like you were the only person who was there. There were so few employees. And it was such a huge cavernous store. It's where the Container Store is now in the Green Hills Mall. And I would just go all over the store looking for you because you were the person who could always answer all the questions. And I mean, we really have been friends forever.
Yeah.
So
and it's a great feeling. Okay. In keeping with what we're going to do tonight, I thought we would start off with what's behind us. And this most beautiful painting of the cover of the Dutch house. And I thought maybe you would talk about its origins, how this came to be, who did it, and so forth.
Absolutely. So like I said, we are in my house. We are in my den. I'm going to just click this light off and see. No, we need the light. She's sort of bleached out a little bit. I love this painting and I love having it in my house. And the way it happened is a long time ago, I really figured out that the only way you can get the cover that you want on your book is to figure out what you want. It's very much like a birthday present when you have no idea what you want, but you really hope the other person will figure out what you want when you don't know. Mm-hmm. And that really never works. So several books ago, I figured out that I needed to be proactive and kind of ahead of the curve. So when I finished writing The Dutch House, I knew that they would want to put a house on the cover of the book. They would be a window, a door, or whatever. And I didn't want a house. It was really important to me that the house was in the reader's imagination. And so I knew that I wanted the portrait of Maeve to be on the cover of the book. There is a painting of Maeve in the book. The father hires this Scottish painter to come and paint his wife Elna, and she will have none of it. And they have a big fight, and then so the painter has to paint somebody. He's there, and he winds up painting Maeve. So the things that go into this painting, they want a painting that's going to look like the paintings of the Van Hoobeeks, and they were probably painted in 1910. This is 1950. So I needed a girl who was from the 1950s, but a painting that had the sensibility of 1910. And what I was really thinking of was John Singer Sargent. So I thought, I'll just go to museum archives and I'll find the right painting. Well, I couldn't find the right painting because the paintings of the right girls were too modern. The paintings in the right style, the girls were all wearing pinafores and bonnets, and she needed to have a red coat. That was really important. So I was talking to my editor and the art director at HarperCollins, and they agreed to have the portrait on the cover. And I said, I know this great painter in town, Noah Satterstrom, and I really think that Noah could do it. And being New Yorkers, they said, well, that's a really sweet idea, but we're going to make a list of 10 painters in New York. Your friend could also try out. We'll get preliminary sketches, and then we'll make a decision. And I hung up the phone and I thought, well, I don't need anybody's permission to commission a painting. And I love Noah's work. So I called Noah, and the thing about Noah is he has 3 little kids, little bitty kids. And at the time they were super little bitty, and he's really busy because the kids are home with him. And I said, I need a painting of a 10-year-old girl with blue eyes, black hair, a red coat, painted in 1950 in the style of 1910 by a Scotsman. And she has to have a direct gaze. She has to be looking exactly at the painter, exactly at the reader, the viewer. And he said, okay, come to my studio tomorrow and pick out wallpaper. So what I picked out from a wallpaper book were those birds in the wallpaper. I went back into the novel, rewrote that so that would be the right birds that matched the wallpaper. And Noah painted this in 4 days. And
That's amazing.
It was just astonishing. I sent it to HarperCollins. They were thrilled. And there are a couple, I'm sorry, this is, Kathy and I were having this conversation before we started. It's like, what if we run out of things to say? And it was like, that actually can never happen with me because I talk forever. But there are a couple of other things that I really love about this. And one of them is it drives me insane that when there is a picture of a woman on the cover of a book, either her back is to the viewer, she's wearing a huge hat, she's looking away, her hair is falling over her face. The face of a woman on the cover of a book is always obscured. And sometimes she's decapitated. Sometimes like it stops right there. It's the top of the book. And that is because publishers believe that a woman reading a book about a woman has to be able to imagine herself as that woman. And if there is an actual forward-facing woman on the cover that the reader, the female reader, will not be able to identify as strongly, which is insulting and stupid and incorrect. So it was also really important for me that she is looking at the viewer. And also, I've never had the experience of reading a book that I can think of where I'm reading along and the cover is actually part of the book. So when you're reading, you get to the moment where you are introduced to this painting and you think, wait a minute, and you flip back and you think, that's the portrait of Maeve. Okay, here's another thing, which you may know. You know the whole difference between matte and glossy?
Sure.
Yeah. So this didn't used to be the case because my first novels through Bel Canto were all glossy. But now glossy equals commercial and matte equals literary.
Okay.
So you don't see literary fiction with glossy covers. I wanted this to be glossy because to me, it's like a catalog from an art museum. If you're looking at a fine painting in a catalog, it's glossy because that's the way you can best see the painting. And they said, no, it's literary, it has to be matte. And I was like, well, actually, no, it's going to be gloss. And they gave me gloss. And it makes it really special.
It really does.
So, people say to me all the time, I bought the book because of the cover, but the two things you don't ever see, a woman's direct gaze and something that is both literary and glossy. And the nicest part of the story is now Noah Satterstrom and I are like best friends. And we have breakfast every month. And
now you're saying his name, so everyone will know it, and wonderful for him.
yeah, it has been a lot of, he's gotten
it.
a lot of great commissions off
That's
of
great.
this.
I remember when this painting was brought into the store, and
Oh yeah.
of course, so many people on our staff had already read the book, and they were oohing and they were eyeing, and I thought, yeah, it's really nice. Okay. A month ago, I read this book and I realized, wow, it is really nice because it is in that book and it's just so perfect.
Yeah, and also the image is flipped. So on the book, when they were trying to figure out the type, it didn't work with the light, dark spaces. So when you are looking at the novel, she's facing in the other direction. Okay.
All right.
How much minutia?
Love that.
Okay.
I love that. Well, that's what makes it interesting. We got the author, we can find all this stuff out. I love it. So there's, as I understand it, because I've seen other things that you've talked about this, there is no real Dutch house. Are there elements of the Dutch house that you've known from your life, from your family, the house itself? And you just briefly.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh, briefly.
No. But now
you're scared.
No.
Yeah, there is not a real Dutch house. There are a ton of elements. I mean, again, what's important to me is that the reader remembers the house that he or she loved the most and thought, that's the most incredible house in the world. It's funny because the more time goes by, the more I remember different things, different houses I borrowed from. Margaret Ann Robinson's house on Belmead Boulevard was one of those houses, and I can't remember the architect's name, who's the same guy who did Cheekwood. But that whole thing where you're standing at the front door and there's glass and you can see out the back of the house, that is like a Nashville thing. And I love that. And also Margaret Ann's stairwell. Cheekwood had elements of that. Clay and Kathy Jackson, who live out on Tyne Boulevard, have a dining room with that blue and gold ceiling. And I actually said, I'm sorry, I'm going to ridicule your ceiling in a book. And they were like, fine, we ridicule it all the time. My friend, Erica Schultz, who was Erica Goldberg when we were in college, she was my best friend in college, and her family lived in Wyncote, which is right there in Elkins Park, Jenkintown, outside of Philadelphia. Her family's house had elements of this house, but the real Dutch house in my heart was my best friend growing up, who's still my best friend, Tavia Cathcart. Tavia, we've been friends since we were 7 years old, and she had a painting in her bedroom when we were growing up. It was a watercolor, and it was called Blue Castle. And it was of this magnificent house that was just sort of floating in space. And Tavia's father died, Cant Cathcart died a year ago. And Tavia and her sister both had tiny little houses, and neither one of them had room for his things, and they sold them. And I bought that painting, and I had it reframed. And I said to Tavia, this is the Dutch house. I mean, this is the house of my dreams. This is the house when I was growing up. So amazing to think of a child in her bedroom having a piece of fine art growing up. It just seems so incredible. And then after they left, that was the painting Kent always had in his bedroom. It was so special. And so I bought the painting, I had it reframed, and then Tavia bought a house and moved into a bigger house and had room, and I gave her the painting back. So it was so great. It was so great. But it wasn't until Kent died and I went back in his house and I saw that painting and I thought, oh, that's it. That's really it.
Oh, that's just great. That's great. Okay, I think we'll move on to the characters a little bit. The thing about the house that sticks with me, and I think will stick with me, is the character. Is the whole concept of parenting in so many different forms. We're talking about Cyril, his parenting, Elna's lack thereof, or sort of parenting, even Andrea. And so I'd kind of like to talk about that with you. And I don't really know where to start on that, except that that is something that literally roiled my stomach when I was reading this book. I couldn't put it down. It was very compelling. If anybody out there has not read it, I think you'll find it that way. But that's the thing that just got me. People that have been in my book clubs for years know that if there is a parenting issue in the book, I'll bring it up.
Mhm.
It's the thing about books that bother me,
Mhm.
bad parenting. Not different styles of parenting, because there are different styles, but bad parenting. And I think we've got it here.
Yeah, okay, so now I'm interested to know this from you. Can you be upset about bad parenting in a book and still like the book?
Oh,
Like still
yeah.
find it interesting or?
Love it. Absolutely. Oh,
Okay.
absolutely. Nothing like that. No issue like that colors a book to say, I don't like the book because of an issue there. No, I don't read that way.
Yeah, because there are certain things in my own reading life that I can't stand. You know, it's just sort of a deal breaker for me. Too much research. I can't stand a
And
book
especially historical fiction.
where I feel
Oh, yeah.
the burden of the research, where I feel like somebody's just trying to kind of push the research and work they did down my throat. That's something
Well, I don't like that either.
Wait, I'm gonna look. We have a question. Okay. It was a question about Tom Hanks and the audiobook. We'll definitely get to
We
that.
can deal with that later.
Okay, so bad parenting. I did a book club, a UN book club a couple of weeks ago. And it was people who were involved with the UN, and it was all over the world. It was a really interesting group. But there were several women who were Irish, and they were saying to me, this is so Irish. This is so Irish. Like all these terrible things are happening, and the father just leaves, and nobody talks about it. Nobody deals with their problem. It's like he just goes. And I thought, yeah. But I also think it was a kind of parenting. Well, I'm just talking about Cyril's parenting right now.
Okay, Cyril. Okay.
Cyril, to me, seems very much like a 1950s father. You know, you don't talk at the table, you don't talk back, you don't get up and leave until you're excused. Children are seen and not heard. You don't have an opinion about what your family's doing. That doesn't even strike me as wrong. That just
That's
is
a
like
style.
It is a style, and it is
Exactly.
a parenting. It's parenting from another time, and I think that it's so important not to inflict our enlightened modern sensibilities
Exactly.
on the past.
Exactly.
Elna, and the book really started with Elna for me. And originally it was really a book about Elna, because I was thinking about, what if someone loved God so much that they believed, what they always tell us, which is our highest calling, our most important calling in the number one spot is to serve God. And what if someone really followed through on that? And I was saying this to Kathy the other day at the store. You think about the story of Abraham and Isaac. And when God says to Abraham, go kill your son, there Abraham goes. And you read that and you think, wow, that's so hard. Boy, he was so brave. That's what you think. Abraham was so brave and full of love and belief that he so believed in God. Like, okay, who was Abraham's wife? Was it Sarah?
I think so.
Sarah, let's say it's
I don't
Sarah,
know.
although
I'm
now
not
it'll
sure.
start to explode in the
everybody will.
comment section. Let's just call her Sarah. But imagine that God spoke to Sarah and said, go take Isaac and bind him and send him up as a burnt offering. No nobility there, no beautiful belief in God there. That would be totally unacceptable. And that was one of the things that I was really wrestling with in this book. You know, men go on the hero's journey, men go to war. Siddhartha leaves his castle and his wife and his child to become the Buddha. And nobody ever says, well, hey, how was that for his wife and child? So what if a woman was doing that? Here we go. Let me just see. Oh,
No.
don't you love that I have to put my glasses on every
That's
time?
okay.
So that's kind of what I was really wrestling with. And originally, the story really was about Elna. I wrote an entirely different version of this book, 150 pages of which took place in Calcutta. Can you imagine how bad that was? Because it really was Elna's story. And my idea was that for the first half of Danny's life, Maeve was his mother. And then for the second half of his life, Elna was his mother. And so he meets her later, much later in his life. And it was a bomb because I couldn't forgive her. And I couldn't figure out how to write that.
Have you forgiven her now? I can't. See, I cannot. I'm
Have
sorry.
I forgiven her now?
12 years of Catholic school, I still can't. No. And I know you have the same.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I just, and she, in my mind, betrays Maeve twice. There's a double betrayal there.
You bet. Sure. My mind too. Yeah.
And I just can't, I just have a hard time accepting it.
But again, it's that sense of you're okay, right? So Elna's looking at her children with all of their wealth and privilege, and she's thinking, you guys are okay. I need to go take care of the children who have nothing. I need to take care of the poor. And do I think that's right? No. Do I think it's interesting?
Yes. Yes. There's
and it's
so true.
It's like a bone that I'm chewing on. I mean, that's a book has got to have, for me to write it, it's got to have a problem that's hard that I'm trying to solve. And in the same way, people say, oh, Andrea is such a monster. Well, but boy, I have certainly known women who have married somebody who has children, and they have their own children, and it's like a bear. It's like a bear. You want to get those other children out of there. And it should just be about your children. That is actually, I think, this incredibly powerful maternal instinct. So seen from the first person narrative point of view of one of the children she's trying to get rid of, she looks like hell on earth. But there's also a little bit of complex parenting going on there too.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. That's what makes the book, I think, such a compelling read. Compelling, interesting, and infinitely discussable read. That's for sure.
And something to think about later too.
Yes, yes, it is. It's going to stick with a person. Even her name, Elna. Not particularly attractive name. Phonetically, I was thinking of Undine Spragg from Edith Wharton. I mean, the unattractiveness of her name to me. Maybe I'm off on a tangent.
Okay, so let me just tell you though.
Not right.
When I was growing up, when I was a little girl, one of my grandmother's best friends was Elna Kennedy, and her name was Eleanor, and everybody called her Elna.
Oh, just as a nickname.
That was her nickname, and I loved her. I loved her. I can see Elna Kennedy right in front of me right now, and so there you go.
That changes my feeling on Elna. Right. There you go. Okay. I saw Cyril as somebody who was, yes, a part of the 1950s, but somebody who didn't know that much about interacting with children. He loved them.
Or women.
Or women. Or women.
Right.
He loved his children. But he and Danny could interact over the real estate thing and
Mhm.
collecting the rents, and they were great. But with Maeve, there wasn't much there with her.
Because she was a girl.
She was a girl.
And therefore just not so interesting.
And just not so interesting. And, you know, she wasn't going to take over any business or anything like that. But that's kind of how I saw Cyril, because I've thought a lot about him as well. Okay, Danny as the narrator. Now we see everything through his eyes. He's telling us the story. We don't hear from Maeve herself. We don't hear from Elna or Andrea herself.
Yeah.
Or, you know, any of those other people. There was a quote in there that I wrote down. I found that Danny says, the problem is that I was asleep to the world, even in my own house. I had no idea what was going on. As a reader, you're being, you know, moved along in the story by him back and forth sometimes. And then after a while, you realize, oh yes, I'm only seeing him, his point of view.
Right.
Interesting choice. Why?
You'll be surprised to know this is kind of a long answer.
Okay.
So when I wrote Commonwealth, Commonwealth was a very autobiographical novel. You know, as my mother always says, none of it happened and all of it was true. So like the actual things didn't happen, but that was really our family and our circumstances. And there was a lot in that book that was autobiographical. And I had always said I would never write an autobiographical novel, but I kept writing the same things over and over again in a lot of ways. I had themes that I kept going back to. So I thought, well, maybe if I just wrote it, you know, like it happened, it would get out of my system. And I loved writing Commonwealth. That was the happiest novel for me to write. I could have written that book for 10 years. I could have been 10,000 pages. I was just in heaven writing that book. So when I finished that book, I thought, all right, I always said I wouldn't write an autobiographical novel. What else have I said that I would never do? And I said, I would never write another book in first person. Patron Saint of Liars is in first person. Yes. Taft is in first person. And that's it. And to me, I do not feel this way when I'm reading a book. I love first person novels, but writing, I find third person more interesting, more difficult, just more compelling. So I thought it was almost like I felt like writing in first person was for a beginner, for me. And then I progressed to third person and it would be taking a step back. So I thought, okay, I've written an autobiographical novel. Now I'm going to write a first person novel again. And I found it really interesting and difficult because the thing about first person is that you don't have access to other people's inner lives. Like you just don't know. You only have that one point of view. So the whole question about Maeve and Mr. Otterson. Maeve and Mr. Otterson, you know, they were a couple. But
I didn't know that until I heard another podcast. I didn't know that. I mean, I was clueless.
Because Danny is clueless.
And I was going right along with you.
That's exactly right. So, I mean, that's like, it's such a question. People are always saying, I was in a book club and somebody said that they thought that Maeve and Mr. Otterson were a couple. And I'm like, yes, they were. But no, Danny can never see it. So, you know, it's like, you can't get Andrea's backstory because he doesn't care about Andrea's backstory. And being limited is in fact really interesting for plot because then the character is always trying to catch up and figure things out. And one of my big problems in writing is like, how do you write in a world in which everybody has a phone all the time? Right? When I was young, when I was dating, and you know, you had a date and you were supposed to meet somebody at a restaurant and they didn't show up and you had to find a payphone and call, and they didn't have an answering machine. You know, it really makes me sound like I was a Neanderthal, but it completely changes the dynamic of your evening, of your date, of your relationship going forward, if you are stood up and obviously now nobody gets stood up, you just text the person and they say I'm running late or I can't come, I broke my foot or whatever. Totally different now. So that's one of the things that first person narration kind of brings you back to, because it means you don't have access to all information. And it's a lot easier to write a plot when you don't know what's going on, when you don't know who's double crossing you, when you know.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it would be. Well, Danny's relationship with Maeve was so special. It just really touched me how they kept going back to the house and they kept seeing each other, and she is such a mentor to him through school and all of this. Speak to that a little bit, those two.
Yeah, when I was trying to start this book the first time, and the first scene, and really the Dutch house the first time was like a nice suburban house. It got bigger. It got bigger over time. But the first scene, they were sitting in that car, smoking cigarettes and talking and looking at the house where they no longer lived. And that was kind of like all I had. And I couldn't get the novel to go forward, but I kept sort of polishing that scene. And I was thinking, oh, this is really good. I was really interested. I'm always really interested in what goes on in a car and how people can talk so intimately. The whole business of you're sitting side by side like this, but you're both looking straight forward. You can get to some deep places in a car that you don't get other places. So I love the idea of their relationship in a car, which is sort of how I first started thinking about them. And when again, going back to Commonwealth, because all the books sort of inform the books, but I was so interested in the relationship between the stepbrother and sister who lose touch and don't see each other and then come back together again so many years later. And I was thinking, I love this place. And I have stepbrothers, but I don't have brothers. And I wanted to just kind of dig deeper into that. And the whole idea also of the sister mother, because she is 7 years older than Danny. And she really is, she's so selfless with him. And again, it's very Elna. There's a way in which she is like her mother, in that she gives up her life to serve. It's okay to give up your life to serve your brother. It's just not really okay to go and leave your children.
Yeah.
Right.
And the interesting dynamic between Maeve and Celeste.
Yes.
Both competing
for
the brother.
Yes.
And they start out liking each other.
Right.
They think they're fine. Let's see her more. And then.
And it's Danny's fault, right? Because, he's always like, oh, if you two really loved me, you would work together. But he is so checked out. He lets all these women, including the staff, including Fluffy and Jocelyn and Sandy. Oh God, I wasn't going to be able to come up with those three names. Thank you so much. He lets everybody take care of him, and he doesn't realize what he's doing. No. I mean, he's so oblivious that why is your day so much easier? Well, maybe because somebody else is cooking and cleaning and paying the bills and raising the kids and taking care of everything that's hard. And he's charming and affable and smart, and everybody loves him, but they're also really exasperated with him. And the whole notion that Celeste leaves him after Maeve dies because she finally says, I'm irritated at you and not your sister. Every time she gets mad at him, she puts it on Maeve. And she finally realizes when Maeve's gone that she has a problem with Danny. And it's not just Maeve.
But the window of a little bit of hope at the end, when There's a party scene at the end and they say, let's get out of here together.
Can we talk about that? Because
Let's.
it really, if you haven't read the book, you shouldn't be
You
watching
won't
this
know.
program
Right.
anyway. So just
Right.
turn it off, finish the book, and then come back and watch this
Right.
later. Okay, so the stepsister was Norma,
No.
right?
Mhm.
Norma comes back
Yes.
at the end. So my friend Erica, who was my friend who lived in Wyncote and Jenkintown and that
Mhm,
whole area,
mhm.
and I used to go to her house when I was in college. I would go to her house for the holidays and everything because Nashville was too far, and I was
Mhm.
very close to her family. And Erica was a very important first reader for this book because she told me where they went to school and what trains they would take. And she and her sisters were kind of my go-to for facts. So I finished the book and I give it to Erica. I think she was the first person who read it. And in the book, Danny at the very end is with Norma romantically.
No, really.
Erica had kittens. She said, I cannot abide this. It is not okay with me. He needs to make it work with Celeste. And I said to her, honestly, I could care less who Danny is dating at the end of the book. And I had like 2 other friends read it and they said, Danny can't be with Norma. This is horrible. And I was like, oh my God, that's your takeaway from this novel? That Danny is with Norma? That's what I would say. Fine, he won't be with Norma. And they said he has to get back with Celeste. I said, no, he's not getting back with Celeste, but they can leave the party together and you can think what you'd like. And Erica said, okay, that's fine. The other
I
thing,
love that.
there were 2 more things. The other thing that Erica could not stand about the book was that the ballroom was on the 3rd floor. And she said, that is not possible. I said, yes.
Yes, it is. I have heard of homes with, yes, I have.
The ballroom is on the 3rd floor.
Homes.
Yes. And Erica
Okay.
said, I cannot believe that. I will not believe that.
Okay.
And we went around and around. And
Mhm.
finally, my neighbor down the street, Cyril,
Mhm.
because every name is connected to somebody in my life. Cyril's an architect. And I got him to like find an article that I could send saying, you know, when this house was built in 1918 or whenever it was built, the ballroom was on the 3rd floor. It was fashionable. And in the scene where Maeve is first taking the little girls on the tour of the house, and one of the little girls says, why is the ballroom on the 3rd floor? And Maeve says, it was fashionable. That was for Erica. Now, the third thing that Erica could not stand about the book,
Erica, are you listening?
Erica, are you listening? Right. Maeve's name was Mamie. She said, I hate the name. I can't, no, it can't be Mamie. I said, I love the name Mamie. It's one of my very favorite names. It was always going to be Mamie. She said, no, I just don't like it. I don't like it. So then my agent read the book. He likes it. He's fine. He said, what did your friend say? I said, well, my friend said that Danny can't wind up with Norma. The ballroom can't be on the 3rd floor. And she hates the name Mamie. And my agent was quiet for a long time. And he said, I hate the name Mamie. And he said, every time I saw it on the page, my brain read it as Mamie.
How did you spell it? M-A-M-I-E.
Yes,
right?
but he said, I saw it as that's what kept going through my mind. And I said, okay.
That's his issue.
But if you know the
If
old
one person, yeah.
One person, with that old joke, one person calls you a jackass, you tell them to get lost. 3 people call you a jackass, you go get a saddle. So,
I don't know.
yeah, it was a great saying of my father. So anyway, I figure if 2 people out of the first 3 people who read the book said, I have an issue with this name.
Well, yeah, 2 others. Yeah.
Get rid of it.
Okay.
So then it was Maeve. What a really exhaustingly long answer.
No, but there's just so much information there. that I had no idea about, and I love it. I'm so
Yeah.
glad I know that. I
It is,
absolutely
it's
love it.
so much fun to get early readers, something I'll never get from you because you wait till the very end.
Yeah, I always do.
But people find things, and now they have this whole thing where they send galleys out to people for Goodreads. You know,
Yeah.
the reader reviewer,
Yes.
and they send the galleys so early. But what happens is those people find mistakes, and there's still time to fix them. So, for example, Danny says something about, my father didn't care about my basketball game as long as I hit my 3-point shot. And somebody who read that galley wrote to me and said the 3-point shot was invented in 1984, or whatever it was. Oh my God. Danny, I talked about Danny's draft, and when he was waiting for his draft number, somebody wrote to me and said, you got it 6 months too early. People didn't get draft numbers until, you know, whatever, December of 69 or whatever it was. Those kind of catches, it's almost like being a near miss of a car accident, because when you have those mistakes, that's what people see. And then I will get 100 letters saying, there was no such thing as a 3-point shot in 19. And that's what people fixate on.
Sure.
You know, I don't want Danny to wind up with Norma. There shouldn't be a ballroom on the 3rd floor. There's, and those are like, they're like speed bumps. I mean, they just totally knock the reader out of their suspension of disbelief. So getting those things fixed is so incredibly valuable. And I'm so grateful to people who read the book early and say, no, that's wrong. I will also say, back to my friend Tavia Cathcart, who had the painting from childhood, Tavia is a type 1 diabetic. And so I get a lot of mail, why diabetes? Why are you interested? Well, because of Tavia. It's always been such a part of my life and her life, you know. And so when I finished the book, I gave it to her, and she fixed everything about diabetes. And I've had so many really nice letters saying it was so true. It felt exactly
Authentic.
what it really is like. Well, thanks to Tavia.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good. One other thing. Oh, on the idea of Norma coming back, and is she a physician or a nurse?
Yeah, she's a physician.
She's a physician, and she's
because Andrea made her go to medical school because Danny was going to medical school.
That's right. To have that little Danny can't one up one of her children, but I like how you had her come back, and she's a sympathetic character. We don't see a whole lot of her at first. I mean, she's not hostile or anything, but I like that she's friends with them. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I thought that was
well
done.
And actually, my favorite line probably in the whole book is there's a moment where I guess it's Maeve is saying, wait, you're a pediatric cardiologist or whatever it is, and you're taking care of the mother, and Bright, your sister, is a yoga teacher in Canada who refuses to go home.
She doesn't even come home.
And Maeve is like, way to go, Bright.
Yeah, that's good.
I really cracked myself up on that one.
That was well done. That was very well done. Okay, one more thing about the idea of forgiveness. We touched on it a little bit with Elna's situation, Maeve's, Danny's. Maeve is so eager to forgive her mother. I mean, it's almost seamless. She doesn't even think about it. Mother's back, we're on. Danny, it takes him the rest of years.
And he doesn't ever
really. And I was right with him. But I think that's just an interesting thing. You know, they always say you can't forgive unless you can forget or put it so much aside. And I find that that's probably true. But my heart broke for Maeve because she had forgiven the mother and then was betrayed again.
Yeah.
So were you drawing on your 12 years of Catholic school and the whole Christian background, or just the way you really think, or?
You know,
I mean,
I think that
maybe we,
all Maeve wanted her whole life was for her mom to come back. You know, I think when Maeve said her prayers every night, and I believe Maeve said her prayers every night, she said, "Dear God, all I want is for my mother to come back."
well, she had her for 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. And she
Yes.
loved
Yes.
her.
Yes.
Those were her happy years.
Yeah.
It all went downhill for Maeve after.
Yes.
She loved her mother. She wanted her mother back. And Maeve was no dummy. And when her mother came back, you know, she wasn't snowed. She knew what had happened. She understood,
Mhm.
but she's like, all my life, I wanted my mother back, and my mother's back, and I'm not going to blow it. And Maeve also realized she was not going to be an old woman. You know, she realized that time was
She was
limited,
ill.
and so she could make a choice and just say, I'm just going to be happy about this. And it is, I make some reference to the prodigal son at that moment when the wife comes. You know, there is no such thing as the prodigal wife, but the parable of the prodigal son has just used to frustrate me to no end when I was a child. I mean, I just couldn't stand that one. Why does he get the party? Why does he get the celebration?
And the other ones worked so hard
and
for
the
his
other,
dad.
yeah, right.
I know.
But hey, God's choice, right?
That's-
You know, did you welcome back the one that you love? And that's what she makes that decision to do from her heart. But when her mother betrays her the second time, she is ready to kill her. Yeah.
Understandable. I'm just going to read a few quotes. I told Ann I was going to do this and just kind of bounce them off her. Things that really resonated with me and maybe some of you as well as a reader. There was one early in the book, and it's related to what we just got finished talking about. It's a short sentence. It says, Maeve had been 10 when our mother started to leave. That made me tear up right then. That was beautifully done. The other one that I've seen quoted various places is the one about the past, because I think this book has so much to do with the past. Do you think it's possible to ever see the past as it actually was? Danny is saying that, asking that. Maeve says, we look back through the lens of what we know now. We're seeing it as the people we are now. This means the past has been radically altered. I've thought about that over and over again since I read that.
Well, and Cyril is the perfect example of parenting. You know, we're talking about it's a different era of parenting. So we look at it through the lens of what we know now. And I think anybody who has a sibling, that experience of we were there in the house together, we were in the room together, and we had totally different childhoods and we had totally different memories of what happened. So yeah, the past isn't a true thing. Our memory of the past is not a true thing.
Wow. Danny says at one point, my father had told me that the things we could do nothing about were best put out of our minds.
Very Irish, very
though?
Irish Catholic.
Isn't it though?
Yeah.
Oh yes, that's.
Don't think you can't change
think
it.
About it. You
Don't
can't
think
change
about it.
Don't even think about it. Just move on.
Yeah.
You know, very helpful advice as well, I think.
Weirdly, I completely agree. Yeah. I mean, you're kind of either on the team of, I'm going to go into therapy for a long time and tear this apart, or it's just like, hey, it happened. Get on the train.
Yes.
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's move
Catholic
on.
school.
I know. There's some really good things, people that come out of that. That's for sure. Talking about Cyril, our father was a man who had never met his own wife. Either one.
Yeah. Father, either wife, but also father and son. I mean, at the end, when Danny and Celeste are getting divorced and she's like, I never liked the house. You picked it out to surprise me.
He repeated that pattern.
And he can't believe it. It's such a great house. How could you not love this house? And there he is doing the same thing again.
didn't consult her.
Yeah.
I would have liked more of Celeste. I like her.
I'm so glad. I liked
I did.
Celeste
I
too.
really did.
Yeah, she was tough.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Very.
she was.
She was a straight shooter.
There's referring to the times they were sitting out in the car, Maeve and Danny. We had made a fetish out of our misfortune, fallen in love with it. I was sickened to realize we kept it going for so long. Now that's late in the book, and Danny is, of course, talking.
But isn't that the truth? And
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
I don't write a book, with a moral attached. I don't think I'm going to write a book about letting go of things. I've had so much mail from people who said, I read this book and it really taught me that I needed to let go of my own old baggage, hurt, anger. And one day I was at Parnassus and two women came up to me and they were probably, early 30s. And they said that they were sisters. They both lived in different cities. They met in Nashville to come to Parnassus. They hadn't spoken in 5 years. They both read The Dutch House. And they both thought, I have to get in touch. And they had angers at each other over their childhood. And they said, she was the favorite. I was not the favorite. I was mad. She was mad. And she said, we gave it up and we wanted to come and have our picture taken with you. And I thought, really, if I achieved nothing else in my life,
Exactly.
thank you. It was so beautiful.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So
it was worth everything.
It was worth everything. Okay, so you want me to tell you about Tom Hanks before we go?
Sure.
Because we're in the final moment.
We are.
So people say to me all the time, so did Tom Hanks ask if he could record the book? Or my favorite, did you go out and direct him and tell him how to read the book? No, none of those things. The reason that I know Tom Hanks is because I blurbed his book, Uncommon Type, and I really liked it. It was a collection of short stories. And then I was asked to interview him on stage in DC, much like this. I went to DC. I met Tom Hanks. We hit it off. He was interested in opening a bookstore. He started coming to Nashville because he wanted to talk to us about opening a bookstore. And anyway, there you go. Now I know Tom Hanks, and we email. And so when I finished this book, and it was in first person and his character, and I said, any chance you want to do the audio? Like no pitches, no hits, right? You've got to go try. I never in a million years thought he'd say yes. And he wrote back in 5 minutes and he said, oh, that sounds fun. Send the book, I'll see. And I sent the book and he did the audio. And I've never listened to the audio of any of my books, but I listened to that one because so many people told me it was great. It's magnificent. I mean, it's really unbelievable. But what I love about it is it's funny. And I think this is a funny book. I think that there is a lot in this book that's funny. And Tom Hanks's reading is so funny. He's sort of bored and entitled, and you can just feel him rolling his eyes, and he underplays it, and I loved it. And it was, you want to talk about a gift. That was a huge, huge gift.
And I have had people I know out there in my book clubs that have told me, Kathy, you have to listen to the book on tape because it is so magnificent.
Yeah.
And I don't hear that much.
Do you have a CD player in your car?
Sure.
I'll give you,
I do.
I've got some upstairs. I'll go get you one. And it really, you don't have to listen to it to read the book.
Yeah.
But if you just put the CD in and listen to it on your drive home tonight, it's knockout. It's great.
He's a great guy, and he comes in Parnassus, and he usually brings us donuts when he does. And so everybody, of course, remembers that. So
right, even if we hadn't remembered,
I remember
Tom,
it was Tom Hanks. Who's that? Oh, the donut. Yes,
right.
That's right. I know.
And the people at the donut den like me because I'm the one who sent Tom.
You send him over.
Yeah,
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, we're about ready to wrap up. I want to thank you so much for doing this. And I also want to say that to everybody out there, we have an entire case of Ann's books at Parnassus Book.
We do.
We do. They're all signed by Ann. And I know Ann will personalize for you. Just give her some notice. She will personalize. So all of the holidays coming up, the gifts that need to be given, think in terms of that. We'd love to see you at Parnassus, and we mail. We ship
We ship
daily.
And can I say something?
Sure.
Because I do these things all the time,
Uh-huh.
and it's a ton of work. You know, you just, even if you've done it a million times and you read the book and we know each other and we know that it's going to be fine, you put so much work into this. And from my heart, I just really appreciate it. And if there was anybody that I could have a conversation with that would be archived and out there, and I could say, go, you know, you want to talk about the Dutch house, listen, and Kathy and I will talk about the Dutch house. So you're the best. You're the best.
Thank you.
And I'm so glad we got
Thanks,
to, because we were going
everybody.
to do it on 2 screens, like being here in the
It's
house.
just makes all the difference.
Yeah,
It really
it's
does.
been great.
Okay.
So thanks.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.